It also commemorates the trek undertaken by the Dogon people from their original homeland around the 13th century.
This is the 8th family Dogon come from Manding to here.
So these are the original people who
Yes.
migrated all the way from the Manding
Yes,
down
yes.
into the Dogon.
He
lands.
walked to Manding
Yes.
by feet to been there.
So this is a piece of history. This is history.
Yes, yes. This is
In wood?
Yes, in wood, and it is the acacia wood. We take some piece to make a door with a Dogon history to give the old information to the young generation.
young people.
Yes, to didn't lose our culture.
Here, 800 miles from Benin, is a living example of the same kind of history and storytelling as we find in the bronzes. The techniques may be simpler, but the purpose seems strikingly similar. The determination to record cultural heritage is common to the Dogon, the Benin craftsmen, the Jenne masons, and the guilds of blacksmiths in West Africa. The need to maintain their identity was vital when kingdoms, new religions, and centers of power were fluctuating over the centuries. But I want to know whether the animist symbols the people use here shed light on those used in the Kingdom of Benin. I've made an appointment to see some elders in a neighboring Dogon village, a mile along the Bandiagara escarpment. I brought my sketches of the symbols used in the Benin bronzes to show the elders. We're meeting in the Tokuna, a men-only gathering place in the center of the village.
Do you have any traditions with leopards? Leopards?
Leopards.
Which man?
Yes, this man.
Really?
Yes.
You're from the leopard clan?
Inafu babin bimayola.
So this one is you?
Voilà. Yeru. In the village, in his family, if one person have to die soon, the leopard come in the night to the roof. He climb into the roof and.
Oh, really?
And you know, bad news is coming in the family.
Something bad's going to happen. Someone's going to die.
To the Dogon, the figure of the leopard certainly has meaning and symbolism beyond the physical. I wonder if the same is true of the snake.
In Benin,
Yes.
this design of snake
Yes.
originally was found on the roof of the royal palace. These are snakes around a woman's face. This is bronze.
Bronze.
Here, the snake protects the village leader. It seems to have a protective function in Benin too. 500 years and 800 miles away from the Benin bronzes, the Dogon people attach meaning to the snake and the leopard that chime with those on the plaques. And there's also evidence of indigenous development of metalworking skills throughout the region. But the bronze casters of Benin needed to know about more than metallurgy. To create a cast, they first had to make a mold. That required the knowledge to manipulate clay. And high above the Dogon villages is evidence of how it was used 2,000 years ago. Kene has taken me to the plateau of the escarpment.
2,000 years ago, all this place, it was a forest.
Really?
In this time, we have more rains than now.
Really?
More rains than now. All is green. The people, if you go to hunting, you get many animals. Elephant, pork-epic, you have monkey.
The people who lived on the Bandiagara escarpment 2,000 years ago were the Telem. They're believed to have been red-skinned pygmies, and they built dwellings into the rock face itself. A belief endures that the Telem had the power of flight, and I'm beginning to understand why.
But it does look quite precarious.
Nestled under the cliffs are one of the wonders of West Africa.
Kenny, this is amazing. What are these buildings?
This is the Telem building.
Yes.
The Telem live here 2,000 years ago. Here it is a Telem granary.
The granaries were built using rich mud from termite mounds. This material and the natural shelter provided by the cliffs means they're extremely well preserved.
In some of building, he put the fruit from the tree.
Yes.
Because we have the forest close to them, and he take a lot of fruit. He eat some, and the rest he keep inside.
So this would be a way of storing food, grain, so that in a difficult year,
Right.
you would be okay.
Yes.
It's not just about kind of survival. This is about flourishing.
Yes.
These structures are not just beautifully built, they've been decorated too.
And the outer surface of these granary stores are just covered in these finger marks. It's just wonderful to be able to actually place your fingers in the marks made by someone possibly 2,000 years ago.
It suggests that the people who lived here could think about more than simple basic needs.
This is a kind of renaissance, a moment when things changed. With the development of these granary stores, the Telem no longer just had to be hunters and gatherers. They bought themselves the time to create art.
Archaeologists have found carved headrests, jewellery, and even metalwork here. The Telem vanished from this area centuries ago. No one knows why. But the fact that jewellery and decoration appeared here 2,000 years ago is significant. It shows that there was indigenous development of an artistic culture in West Africa many generations before the bronze casts of Benin were made. And nearby, some astonishing discoveries have revealed further evidence of craft. They may force experts to rewrite the history of West Africa's development. At a place called Onjugu, the past hasn't been dug up by archaeologists. It's been revealed by nature.
It's hard to believe, but within living memory, it was impossible to stand where I'm standing now. The water levels of these two rivers used to be much, much higher. But after a huge storm, the rivers broke their banks. They changed course. And what they revealed in the mud has changed archaeology.
The river erosion created an archaeologist's dream, a cross-section of history in layers of sediment. In 2002, an international team began finding evidence of prehistoric human activity. Adamo Dembele is from Mali's Cultural Mission, which works to preserve the country's archaeological heritage.
Nous sommes sur un des sites où l'équipe a eu à travailler avec une grande équipe. On a commencé de là-haut jusqu'en bas pour faire un décapage. Au cours de ça, nous avons fait la découverte et la lecture des différentes couches qui ont été déposées. Effectivement, nous avons trouvé des tessons de céramique. Et effectivement, il y a toujours une différence des périodes, des époques qui mettent la différence entre les céramiques trouvées.
The archaeologists carbon dated the pottery fragments to 11,400 years ago. People were using pottery here 8,000 years before it appeared in Britain. The fragments are 2,000 years older than any other pottery found in Africa. They're the same age as the oldest known pottery in the world.
That fairly modest piece of ceramic tells a revolutionary story. I mean, this is a material that must have transformed the lives of the people here. It allowed people to transport things, to store things. I mean, this really is revolutionary.
The discovery of such ancient pottery here means that West Africa was way ahead of its time. When West Africans began developing the skills that would eventually create some of the most exquisite art in the world, Europe was just emerging from the last ice age. The British recognised the extraordinary quality of the Benin bronzes when they took them in 1897, but they thought that Africans were incapable of creating them. It's only recently that the full and extraordinary history of West African craftsmanship has begun to emerge. Now we can see how the bronzes give us an insight not just into the Kingdom of Benin, but into a wider history. With fluctuating centres of power, cultural identity in West Africa was more important than a sense of nationhood. The bronzes show us the power of the Oba and the spirits that protected him and his people. And they're the culmination of important indigenous developments over thousands of years throughout this part of the continent.
The kingdoms of West Africa share many important aspects: pottery, ironwork, but also a history of telling their story through art. These things were, and always will be, truly African.